convenient time, isn't it?
So it doesn't on Tuesday morning. Doing that. Okay. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Woodley Town Council's Planning and Community Committee being held on the 20th of May. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with the recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we are not expecting a fire drill, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the front of the Oakwood Centre in Woodford Park. Thank you. First item on the agenda, as it's the first meeting of the committee in this municipal year, is for the appointment of chairman and vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for chairman?
I will nominate Councillor Wilson.
And do we have a seconder for that?
Seconder.
Thank you. And do we have any other nominations? Okay, could we take a vote on that, please? On Councillor Stone?
That's everybody.
I shall hand over. Very good.
Yes. Thank you all.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Okay, now we go for the appointment of vice chairman. And for the appointment of vice chairman, I'd like to nominate Janet Zaffarel. We have a seconder.
Second.
And are those in favour?
You can put nomination.
Right. Thanks very much. Very good. Okay. This is where I leave and I say hand it over to you. Okay. We have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Horskins. Councillor Horskins is attending virtually.
He says he's Councillor Horskins.
Right. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that need to be noted? No. Okay, and item 4 on the agenda is minutes of the Planning and Community Committee meeting held on the 29th of April 25. And unless anybody has any comments, I will sign these at the end of the meeting as a true record of that meeting. Anybody have any comments to make? No? Okay. Actions and follow-ups, which is on page 5 of your pack. I think first one isn't due until December 25, so there won't be any update on that. Second one is the potential locations of the Town Council notice board. So if we had any.
Can I just, if I can just provide a brief update on that. I will be circulating the plan in the next day or so with all the current locations on. We did send a round robin email previously asking for potential other locations. I have met with the amenities manager as well to look at the style and price up for the new units. They're more expensive than we thought, but we found the type that members preferred, which was one with a 1/2 poster case, 1/2 with a pin board, so that we can have part of it for public access, part of it for council documents and things like that. And they are a bit more expensive, so I'm going to have to get something back to strategy and resources in terms of the allocation of funds. But I'll get something out on the locations, and then we can move that one on in this meeting.
So are we thinking of doing a straight swap then?
Depending on those locations, and I think for this committee to decide which locations are appropriate.
Certainly the one down at the new Morrison's is in a hedge. I mean, I think nobody will miss that.
Probably not the best.
The only one on Buzzell Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always been a bit weird.
Bit of a wasted.
But it could be relocated.
Yeah, yeah.
Out of that area.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
I also did verbally say we ought to have one on the centre stage.
Yeah.
I know we've got a little tiny one there, but centre stage.
Yeah.
Okay. Cycling and walking working group did say that the group has the capacity to progress. Is there any change in that at all this time?
No.
No, nothing at all. Okay. And the disabled bays and the dock on the pedestrian crossing. We think that's happening now, don't we? I think that's just about what's causing all the problems outside, so hopefully that's all going ahead. It's called on London Park Estate. Any further? Did you manage to contact anybody?
Well, I've heard back from the companies that I tried to contact, and no one wants to own up to owning it. So we might go with plan B, take the door off or replace it.
Right. Okay, and just to note the attendance on item 202. I don't think there's anything else we need to. Yes.
My first one was thank. I don't know, did you join it, provided it, or Carol?
Matthew did it.
I believe Edgevale is footpaths.
Yes.
So presumably that means Robertson and Graham are two sides. Just trying to identify which.
I did drop them a line, I think it was 2 meetings ago, just to let them know what we're going, because to be fair to them, there was a big gap
Yeah, I
between us
understand.
setting ourselves
Just
up.
trying to understand.
Yeah,
Good. Good that which cycling organisation is Kay Robertson?
UK Reading campaigns representative.
They all got several hats, it's difficult to know which.
That's great.
well, we haven't seen them for ages, just getting on with that one.
Thank you. Right, current planning applications. I think there's just 8. 7. I don't think we need to discuss much about the neighbouring one on the last, do we? Why do we need to? I don't know. Not sure, but we'll see how we go. Okay. Right. First one is 250468 8 Putts Hill Road, household application for the proposed erection of an outbuilding with gabled roof, including roof lights to facilitate loft storage. Part retrospective. This one, I think we saw originally. I don't think did we have any objections. I don't think we had any objections at the time, but it's come back, hasn't it? Because now they want a gable roof on it, and there's been some objections from neighbours over the height and possibly the use. Although the use won't actually come into it, will it?
This is the one that was hot there.
Yes, it is. It hasn't got a roof on it at all at the moment. It was going to be a pitched roof.
Quite a few of the objections were not valid.
Not valid.
Like almost every one of them, I think this is the one, mentioned the fact that they removed the tree.
Yeah.
Beforehand. Well, as long as that's got a TPO,
Yeah.
residents can do whatever they like with their trees.
The existing building that was put up didn't have planning permission, first off. And then it came back as retrospective. That's right, yeah. The gabled roof, I think the other thing that the people are concerned about is obviously what the use of it's going to be, because it was listed as storage, but then it looks as though it's going to be a habitable use on the latest one. Doesn't make any difference. The only thing I was going to query, I don't know that it's a planning issue, although sometimes fire escapes are. The fact it's a drop-down ladder, if it is going to be habitable use, and a drop-down ladder to a loft, is that permitted? If I know staircases in certain places come under planning.
But you can sorry, Karen, you're waiting.
Best my arm.
But we can only comment on what's put in front of us. And what's put in front of us, that is loft storage, correct?
I thought it had changed actually.
No.
It was still loft, was it? It was only for storage.
Yeah, it's still loft storage. The fact is, they may well use it for accommodation or whatever, is totally irrelevant because that's not what is in front of us. We can't second guess.
Just to let you know that on the revised drawings, they helpfully actually listed what the changes are from the application that you considered before. That was obviously no objections were sent to. So elevation D window omitted. So you'll see here on the revised there's no window, whereas on the original there was a window. And the wording that's been listed here, that there's different roof lights noted as being fixed shut. So these roof lights are now noted as being fixed shut and also are obscurely glazed and non-opening, which was not listed on the first one. So my understanding is that's the only two differences. That window has disappeared and these are now fixed and obscurely glazed.
So the
Only difference from
gable
the
roof was there before.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And they were specified in the Wokingham approval, weren't they? The things that needed to be done. So,
No objections.
So there's no objections on that one. Okay. Sorry, Carol.
Before we move on, I'm not happy about that pitch. I think that's quite, I know you can't say unneighbourly, but that's what I'll say. But if that's what we said okay to last time, their dues, but I think that height is very imposing on the neighbours. As to the trees and the use, we can't do anything about, but I think the height is, but if you said that we've already said yes to it, it's probably a meeting I wasn't at, so.
Can you put up the notice site location? please?
Yeah,
Because I've got a question you might be able to answer. Right. So what is that build right in the top
Yes.
right corner?
Yeah.
I thought that's another house.
Yeah.
It's another-
I don't know, is it? How
It
do you
is,
get to it?
it's another house. Yeah, well, from the road the other side.
Because you can't, you've
So you've got that very narrow bit there, to get in there, but there's a building blocking it. No, I mean,
Through
no,
here,
is it through there?
I think there was a, let me have it, I'll bring it up on Street View so you can have a quick look.
I'm just curious, because I thought that's really weird. Doesn't change the situation.
Yeah, so the property is entered through here from Tiverton Close to there, and there's a kind of a hedge line that
Some right
runs
on the
around
spot,
here.
it's
And
built to the bottom of the garden.
if that hedge still exists, it'll be down there by the hedge.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
My only comment was similar to Carol's. Having measured that with the ruler, it's not far short of 5 metres.
Yeah, that's what the residents have said.
Rich, would you like, 5 metre high building?
I thought when it came to us first off, though, it was a pitch roof, not a gable roof.
Those were the original plans, that is exactly the original plan.
That is the original.
That was from the last meeting when you considered it, so.
But we didn't have any objections then, so.
I should have come to the last meeting.
It was the 1st of April when we looked at it. So perhaps it was connected with that.
It might have been, if I recall rightly, the location here at the end of the garden by, I think this is quite a large hedge.
Can't see anything on that, because it's in the middle.
Usually this kind of location here, yeah. It's kind of obscurely glazed at first floor level.
So no objections, because we looked at that before, okay? Okay, we move on. 14 Selsdon Avenue, which is 250897, household application proposed, single story front extension to facilitate front porch followed by a 2-story side, part 2-story and single story rear extension, along with loft conversion to create a habitable accommodation to include 1 number dormer followed by changes to fenestration and demolition of 1 number chimney to existing outbuilding. Quite a big event. Have we got that one?
I thought it was big, but so are the others.
Yeah.
The road, the other houses.
Yeah.
Either side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What to do.
So, does anybody have any problems with that? No? No, okay. Okay, 82 Woodlands Avenue, 251044, and householder application for the proposed single-story front and rear extension plus garage conversion. Is there any issues there? I don't think I. No. Objection, no? No, fine. Okay, 273 London Bridge Road, household application proposed 2 number dropped curbs, and had a look at this one. It's right on the corner of Cobham Road, which is rather difficult. And I noticed that there looks provision for a turntable so that they wouldn't be reversing out. Is that right?
Yeah.
But it is the positioning right on that corner and coming out onto London Bridge. I don't know whether that's an issue or something that highways should actually be looking at.
I'm sure I was, but
Yeah.
for me, since you're not allowed to park in front of drop curbs, right?
Yeah, it's gonna-
That's actually taking out at least two
At least two.
parking spaces. And it's interesting, some of the objections are complaining about people parking there, and it actually adds it.
Yeah.
And I know they linked it to 251.1015, because that's also in the system. But again, that's irrelevant because we can only look at what's in front of us.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's a positive thing.
Right. Okay.
Totally not working.
Yeah, the only issue was its actual positioning to Cobham, actually right on that junction to pull out, but and we don't need to even consider the turntable. That's allowed, is it, to do what they like in there?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay. 250150, this is revised, 3 Fawcett Crescent, household application with the proposed 2-storey front, side and rear extension, plus changes to fenestration and conversion of the roof into habitable living accommodation. That one, what did I think of that? Can't remember now.
We've had this before, haven't we?
Yeah, no, previously seen, now revised, Carol.
It does, if you look at the side elevation, previous and existing and proposed, it really is sticking out further than the front of the house. It's a
Area.
no, the whole of that bit there. It's sticking out well in front of the house. I looked at the others in the road, and that's going to look very odd. I don't know if anybody seems the same.
Site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's no further than those. They've got one, is it?
Yeah.
They're further along, but I don't know what, that might be single story further along.
Yeah.
Well, there's two of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the two together there above.
Probably single, but this is a
Can you
two.
carry on and go down, towards it, Chris? Oh, it's only- There's any other.
Yeah, so it's just a single story.
Section of the board, not.
I think it will impact the street scene. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb, which is not a planning reason.
Get to the two that had stick out the same.
That's
That's
those there.
It's our single story.
Which is, isn't it?
Yeah. You see, I don't see they're just projecting out from the front elevation.
Is there anything down there that's got the side extension 2-storey at all? There's one. There's one back there. Yeah, two. I'm under to it. Didn't strike me as that's a major issue.
It's set back, that one.
That one's set back, that
And
one's
it's-
set back.
Yes.
And it's not in line with the other house that the proposed one is in line. Yeah, I mean,
That's the easiest
I think
solution,
it's,
isn't it?
they just need to set that back. I don't know why they need that extra than Anyway, that's my comment.
Do you think it's strong enough to object?
Did you say we'd seen it before? Yeah.
Yes, it's come back to revise, but I thought that was, the revisions were on the, was it the roof conversion?
It's the lanterns, is it? Is it this one where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the,
Yes.
it's the,
They're putting it on,
these two that were not originally there.
We've already said yes to it.
yeah,
I'll tell you.
I think it's, we've seen the building line before, but it was the way the walls are at the side, two side walls. They haven't been constructed. Oh,
I thought I'd spoken to the officer about this one, but I can't remember what he said.
Sorry, it's not listed as a revised application, so I don't say.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I had a side extension double story loft conversion on the place around the corner, I actually had, with the garage underneath, I had it flush to the thing, and the planning officer said, no, you've got to come forward. I thought,
I think it wasn't closed, but you weren't close to the next one, were you?
no,
Oh,
do
bizarre.
you see anything there as to what the revision is?
No, it's strange.
I thought it was the side supported walls, the way it was going to be constructed.
Can't see the original details.
I think it was
I think
February.
in one of the residents' comments, was it? It mentioned the way it was constructed, if you can take that as being the fact.
It's very strange because it has the same number, exactly the same number as the one you considered it on the 4th of February, but the actual application itself doesn't have any previous plans. Normally you see in here the previous plans and any previous comments, but I can't
Remember
remember
these comments there.
there isn't any
I thought there was a
reference,
resident on that one.
not on 3 or 4, no. Normally if it's, and these original plans were put in on the 5th of, the original plans were put in the 5th, but the proposed, yeah, so the original proposed plans seem to have disappeared from it because they would have been on there before. We don't keep records of them, it's normally a record on here.
The application was put in on the 22nd of January, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the original, I mean, I can see on our comments that when this was looked at, there were no objections put forward by us on the, what we can't see is what the proposed plans were from that application.
On your spreadsheet, do you capture whether something's been withdrawn? I'm just wondering,
If
was it
it's
withdrawn?
formally withdrawn, yes, but then it would be given a new application reference, a new application would come through.
Not necessarily. It's not.
The only reason they'd allow the same number to be used is if it's open and revised, if it's withdrawn or closed or an outcome, then that disappears. But I don't know why the original proposed are not showing on there, but there were obviously no objections previously.
It's difficult for us to object if we've looked at it and we can't see what the original one was. So. What do we do? We put it through as a,
I think we'll leave it in, no comment, we'll leave it in the hands of the planning officer.
everybody happy with that one?
You could actually ask me to look at the point you're raising. So no comment, formal comment.
Yes,
But draw the attention to the planning
Yeah.
officer.
we're only supposed to say no comment, no objection or
I know.
whatever, but
Yeah.
I'm
Change,
happy,
please.
I'm happy to make that observation from this committee about the two-story
revision,
element being
whether-
forward of
Right.
the so-called building line.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Right, application 251119, 17 Reading Road, household
No,
reference. Office Coppice, sorry, yeah. 250434, 44 Coppice Road. household application for the proposed two-storey side extension plus erection of new porch and changes to fenestration following the demolition of existing chimney. And if I go set them all together for some reason. Yeah. I missed that one. 250434.
Could have had loads of objections, that's why.
Yeah.
Multiple from.
So it's,
Complain again, I
See
think
what-
one objection repeated 4 times.
What's
Yes.
changed though for this from the last time we looked at it? Does anybody?
Yeah, Carol.
yeah, there are lots of objections, but I don't think any of them are valid. I think there was enough room on the side of that house. I understand there's a bit of history there because they used to park all sorts of vans and cars and whatever there, but not families, so we can.
Only
I wasn't sure what the zigzag things were on in the garden, previous slide. So the parking spaces, in fact,
the plan
those
hasn't changed.
pretty.
Is it
hedge?
or a slope?
Hedge,
Or is
yeah.
it a slope? Because that slopes down,
Oh,
doesn't it?
it does, yes, because that's where they've been storing the vehicles.
The plan on this one is exactly the same as the last one we looked at, and all the objections were around light and what have you. If you remember, we drew the line and upwards and it's not overshadowing anything. So as you say, I think it's a bit of people just a bit teed off with them.
Right, no objections on that one? No.
No.
And then we come back to 251119, 17 Reading Road, household application, proposed replacement of existing rear flat roof with new roof incorporating parapet walls to the sides and the insertion of 2 glazed roof lanterns and a sun tube. I couldn't see anything at all wrong with this. Everybody all right with that one?
Yeah.
It's gone flat to flat, really.
Okay, and this is the neighbouring parish and at Land's End House, Beggars Hill Road, permission in principle application for the proposed erection of 1 number detached dwelling. Carol.
Yes, I know this is a neighbouring parish, but this PIP application is a new thing that's come in quite recently. And we had one at the planning meeting the other week, and you're very, very limited about what you can take into account. In fact, there's only 3 things. That's location, land use, and the amount of development. And it's kind of a sneaky way of getting in. But if we looked at this application in the normal one of things, we'd have been looking at access and trees, but we can't look at any of that. Obviously, in terms of land use, maybe the only thing that it's not conforming to, but amount of development is only 1 house, and location, it's all those things that we can't talk about. That is why you probably object
Part
to
of the current government's
Yeah.
improvements.
improvements. Yes, so we had one in Angels Road that there was all sorts of things that we didn't like about it, but we could only look at those 3 things.
Yeah.
So they've now got that permission. But then when the full planning application comes in, then you talk about the access. But the point being, if, for example, if the access is pretty awful anyway, you do wonder how or why they're putting in these PIP applications. Well, I think I know why, but just so I didn't fall.
Yeah,
So it will come back again.
yes, it will come back to full planning.
It's not, they haven't got permission to build, they've only got permission in principle.
How much waiting, I suppose it's early days, would have the application that comes back in, the detailed application, the fact that they've got the permission in principle, because there's got to be a waiting on that.
I think it needs to be tested, but certainly the one I was looking at, there was considerable concerns about access, the impact on the countryside, etc. But I have a feeling once they've got this foot in the door on this one, it would be very difficult to turn it down on full application.
But that would be determined at the moment by the officers. It wouldn't be by the committee. So, you know.
Well, if it's delegated, it would.
Well, yes, if it was, yeah. I mean, at the moment, it's not been listed, so it would go to the
But
office.
the one we had been listed, so which is why we discussed it.
And how the officers would view it.
Yeah.
Is there a guidance note or anything on this, Pip?
Yes,
Could you send it?
Yeah.
I got some advice from Borough Council basically this afternoon on it, so I can say exactly through the advice, and it's some government guidance page about it. It's exactly that stage 1, stage 2, the principle of using that space for a dwelling or something, and then the actual what that looks like becomes stage 2. But I can circulate that because I've only, as I say, I only received it this afternoon. So it's fine.
For next time.
So do we have to say, look, we approve or don't approve at this stage on this one?
no comment, it's
So
on.
I could only think it's no comment.
Yeah, yeah.
For the exact reason that you said. You don't have enough.
Reserves on rights, doesn't it?
Well, also it's adjoining, so you're a bit limited as what we can say.
Okay. Right, that's all the planning applications. On to item 7, planning decisions, which is on page 9. I think more or less it's followed our comments. Don't think there's any ones that have gone against what we recommended or asked or not recommended. I think they're all, yeah, nothing there at all. Is there that anybody's got any comments to make on? Because more or less us, wasn't it? Yeah. And going on, planning appeals, that the following appeal against refusal of planning permission has been lodged with the planning inspector at 91 Reading Road, so that's been lodged. We'll wait and see. We had no objections to it, but obviously Wokingham did and turned it down, so there's an appeal against that. Prior approvals.
Matthew, is there any way of identifying like the refusal comes from an officer or the planning committee? That would be very interesting to know.
If the officer.
Every officer.
It's not a major planning application, so I think they.
Yeah, it could be.
Somebody listed it.
It hasn't.
usually be on a decision notice, I'm sure.
I was just seeing whether there's any differentiation between what councillors do as well as the officers do. Okay.
I was just a bit disappointed with that, not, about the nature of it, but we just had that guidance from the officer at Wokingham about the approach to things in people's back gardens. I thought, oh, you're right, okay, we've got that straight. And then this, they've turned down, and I thought, I don't understand why, in terms of the guidance they've given us, why that was different from some of the other things we looked at. So, it's, every time we think you've got a grip on it, it slithers away again.
Move the goalposts.
Protecting it.
Okay, item 9, prior approval submission type of application only requires consultation with adjoining neighbours on the site. So we've got 2 there, Woodlands Avenue and London Bridge Road. If there are any comments at all on those, we just need to note it.
Interesting. 251015, 273 London Bridge. They had prior that single story extension. Yeah, that was the one that was referenced to the.
Yeah.
They drop curve.
Yes.
But they got permission for doing it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Item 10, tree preservation orders, application of the works on these trees. Any comments on those that are there? And enforcement issues on page 11 and 12. Saturday Crescent breach conditions, applications, we'd have to look back at those to see what that one refers to, wouldn't we? 5A South Lake Crescent breach of condition on application 250550. That's a notification, it's not been decided yet, not been looked at, has it? It's only to look at. And enforcement closures. Anything there at all that?
Standard, the classic, not expedient. In other words, they have violated, but it's
Not worth it.
doing it.
No.
In that place,
Yes.
really good.
Driveway contracted without planning permission. These driveways, I mean, I've just seen that there was one in Colemanmore Road where the guy laid block paving and he did it himself. And he spent almost a year doing it. Then he's taken it all up and he's laid down this matting that like we've got in the park, that the grass grows through. Having spent all that time laying the block paving, well, block paving doesn't come into like a concrete, it's permeable, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have been a reason that he had to take that up. But these paved print ones, which are virtually all concrete, they are non-permeable. Would that need planning permission?
But I think it's the concrete. Don't know whether it's the material being used. I don't know.
I think it's because they're not permeable. There doesn't, you know.
It's one of the reasons, but maybe there's a second reason. I don't know.
You see a lot of these paved print ones, which are virtually just.
They're in the area at the moment, aren't they?
Oh, they are.
Everywhere, yeah.
Be that, you know, that's much the same as cement, isn't it? Straight away, so there you go anyway. Right, that's that. Where are we? Supervision, also issues. Cycling and walking, task and finish working group. Now, to consider amending section 4, the size of terms of reference to the cycling and walking, to increase the number of members from 5 to 6 and to include a Conservative member onto the group.
I could explain. We finally found someone who was willing, very willing, not twisting arm, and came to me and said they would like to do it. It's
I wonder why there was a change of heart.
Danny Kenwara.
Right.
Well,
Has he
more
got
the
a
merrier.
bike?
Yes. Well, I haven't got a bike.
No, but it's a lot of walking.
Right. Do we need to do anything?
Well, we've got to vote on it. We've got to vote on A,
Yeah.
approve the
To remove the
exercise, and then if it's approved, then I will tell you that it's councillor Fanning.
Okay, so let's take A, that we are in agreement to increase the number from 5 to 6 on the cycling, walking and task and finish working group. Those in favour? Right.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and the second part, Keith?
I've got it.
Just in case you haven't voted, it's Danny. Councillor Fanning.
And Keith, that's the second part done, right, okay.
Bill, I just wonder under this, can we have a C? Because we were talking after the last meeting and then we both went on holiday, so I didn't get it on the agenda, but I just wonder whether just like a quick update on what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll think it's all right. I mean, there's a shed load of things we could be doing, as we've discovered on cycling locally. But the first thing we picked to do was to make this sort of local cycling network and focus it on very much encouraging people to take short journeys on their bike rather than get in the car. So the focus of it was about utility and commuting journeys rather than cycling in Lycra for fun. And what we're also trying to do is we're sort of concentrating on the Woodley area, but then also on making connections out to other hubs or local centres and so on. So that was the theory. And always we're referencing back to the cycling strategy. So another objective was engaging with experienced new and would-be cyclists. So again, we want to use that as a bit of this as a bit of leverage for that. And the approach we've taken is that one of the first things we want to do is engage and learn from the national and the borough initiatives, so that we can basically piggyback on what they're doing, maximise the impact in Woodley of the whole active travel thing. We've also referred to the Department of Transport's local transport note on cycling infrastructure design, and that's really written for these big meaty projects, but it has a series of principles in them that you should consider. So we've referenced those. Because I say it's common really that so for example, one of the design principles under their safety section mentions that 20% of the accidents that kill or seriously injure cyclists in the country are caused on roundabouts. So one of the principles we've been looking at is trying to avoid roundabouts in the routes that we're drawing up, or I should say actually Carol's drawing up and we're testing. And then again, we were sort of chatting to the Wokingham guys from Active Travel, and the approach we're taking is very much we're going to work creatively with what we've got and deliver a good enough network of local routes, bearing in mind the sort of budget that we would have, which isn't very much, and the resources available to us. So again, the routes that we've sort of spec'd out, they combine on-carriageway cycling, but again, we're looking for what we would call quieter routes, in the expectation that they will be safer. And then we've got some designated cycle paths, and shared pedestrian and cycle routes, and also open spaces where, weather permitting, you could use them. Our other kind of approach is that we want to make sure that we can update this network and expand it if we need to in response to changed circumstances. So it's I would characterize it as cheap and cheerful. That's the approach we're going for. So as I say, Carol, being our expert cyclist, has did as the first sort of pass across, and we've now got 7 local access routes. 5 of them we've completed and tested. 1 we've spec'd out but haven't tested yet, and there's one outstanding. And then we've got 9 connections which take us beyond Woodley to other places people are likely to want to go. And our sort of next steps are to socialise that with cyclists. So we've had a very generous offer from Wokingham's Active Travel guys who have volunteered to come along to Carnival and help us man a stall. And they're proposing to send somebody who'd be available to talk to local residents about the Woodley Reading cycle path and any sort of route and any queries they've got on that. And then apparently they've got some wheel that's quite colourful and spins, and they want if they can talk about active travel generally. And then we will present to people what we've done so far on the local network, and then encourage people to test things themselves, come back with different suggestions, with a view to us finalising this sort of local network. So we're just waiting to see if we can get another table, because the Woodley Town Council one's already full. So subject to us being able to do that's our objective on Carnival Day. And then we will then publish these routes, and the options are either Active Travel at Woking will pick it up and put it on theirs, or if they're not comfortable with that, we'll do what Carol did with the walking, and we'll publish them on our own site with the different walking tours. There's other things we've got to look at. So at some point we need to consider the signage. And again, we've had some nice noises from Active Travel people that they might be able to find us some cash to help with that. And the other thing we need to look at is the provision for cycle racks, and also whether we need lockable storage anywhere in Woodley, I mean TBC really. And then again, I mean, I think we could keep ourselves occupied for quite a while, don't you?
Working group.
Well, yes, but there's so again, just from going around walking routes, I mean, I find it quite fascinating as a non-cyclist how opaque a lot of the signage is. There's bits that are deteriorated. There are also shared cycle pedestrian routes that aren't marked up on the Wokingham stuff, and I think some of them must be really old because they're very faded, but we need to kind of look at those. We've identified some hazards, and there's silly things like the flashing 20-mile-an-hour lights round Wayne Giles, weren't working when I was out at 8 o'clock surrounded by children on bikes. I've raised a query about that. They will deal with it in, I think it was 12 weeks or something. So I'm keeping an eye on that to chase it up. But it's just keeping on top of all these little kind of hazards and odd things. And just not directly related to this, but you'll remember a couple of meetings ago, we were told about a Twyford parish councillor who is interested in getting a lot of like-minded parishes around Twyford who are interested in the facilities for bikes at Twyford station, and also the route from Twyford station over to Loddon Park, get that sort of resuscitated. It's still in the cycling plan, and try and see if we can, working together, get it pushed up the priority, because I mean, that's a real transport hub now, Twyford, with the Elizabeth line there, and it just would make a lot of sense. So we have made made contact with him, and we're waiting for him to come back. And also, Woking are sponsoring a meeting on cycling infrastructure and bus services in Twyford, and again we're waiting for dates for that. So one or other of us will go and just put our 2 pennies in.
Yeah, did you?
I'm still back, I'm just.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
So that's what we're up to.
Thank you very much for that.
Right, that's fantastic. What you're doing, the volume of stuff you're doing, attempting to, is absolutely brilliant. On that basis, I think calling your group a task and finish group is no longer appropriate. So what I would.
We've said this again and again. Speak the light.
Take a sip. No, I would like to propose, if we can, Chair, and Kevin, I'm looking at you, to change it from a task and finish working group to a full-blown subcommittee, because you've got so much on your plate. That's going to go on and on and on. Can I make that proposal?
Any other question?
I need a seconder.
Seconder.
And
All in favour? Yep.
on
Oh.
And then the second point I want to make, thank you both for all the work you're doing. Carnival is I'm assuming the town council doesn't pay for their slots, do they?
No.
Right. Could we possibly use a little bit of leverage to get a separate small stall for what June's talking?
Yes, that's what.
Yes, so you're already.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You did mention that. Yeah. You were talking about getting another table or something.
Yes, well, that's another pitch, yeah. No.
Another table. Yes. I'm sure they would do that.
Yeah.
Talk to Julia.
So could I just briefly add to what June's been saying, that last meeting we had the active travel, 2 people from the active travel, which is quite a step forward, because we keep trying to get active travel involved. They were there, they were very positive, they were coming up with ideas. We also had the exec member of active travel there, and he's taken away our request for signs, and I'm hopeful we might get somewhere with that one. So that's mentioned that, and one other thing which is now completely gone because I've got so excited about it.
Actually, racks, was it?
Racks, no. Anyway, not that important. But does that change the size of the group?
Doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to.
It's the category of group. What it means is you don't have to each year get an extension.
Okay.
It just continues.
I've remembered. I'm attending a meeting for the Twyford, I think it's Travel and Infrastructure Group, on Friday morning. It's a Teams meeting, so I'm involved in that. Wasn't sure who else, if you've been invited, June.
No, I'm not here anyway. I cannot hear.
So
I'll
I'll
the rest this week.
As a non-cyclist, and a non-walker actually.
It's really safe with us.
Long time ago, there were signs put up on Coleman's Moor Road, and then going down the Barter Way, showing the cycle route to Winner Station, to the station. It went down the side of the Barter Way onto the ground of Dinton Pastures, and it stopped. There was no sort of cycle route to get across the roundabout and actually get to the station.
You've got
Do we know if that's finished or if it's still sort of just comes to an end?
The plan originally, 3 or 4 years ago, was to have their super duper bridge to continue on from that footpath over the river. I felt that was in the wrong place because it was taking you over to the area that was always flooded, as opposed to using a bridge that's already there, but it's not very cycle and pushchair friendly. They have now agreed to put a ramp in on that wooden bridge. So you come along that path you're mentioning through Mortimer's Meadows, you go over what will be a new ramped bridge, turn right to come out by the cinema, and then if you cut through, there's a ramp again that takes you up to the traffic lights. And I'm not sure, you can get across all the traffic lights, so I think it's a bit of a challenge, but so there is a route
There is.
to Winner's Drive, but not ramped yet.
Right, any other points? Yes, Ben.
Thank you, Chair. Just a brief question around signage and Woodley Precinct. Are we putting any signs up at head height to stop cyclists going through Woodley Precinct? Or I know that was planned a while ago.
Wire across.
Preferably, yeah, or a couple of machine guns. I know there were plans a while ago. Are we pursuing that, or have we given up on that, or?
There's markings on the pavement, on the pathway, isn't there?
I
So
don't see it.
Yeah, they aren't that prominent, are they? And also it's all cyclists. And funny enough, I was walking around the university today with a friend, and on the garden there, they've got a sign. I've taken a photograph of it, and it says no cycles, no skateboards, no scooters. That's what we want. I mean, Travis, there's always an element of common sense. And if you've got a 2-year-old on a balance bike, I wouldn't be bothered about it, to be honest. But it's I think the worst offenders are the scooters, the electric scooters.
Well, motorbikes, like I saw the other week.
Gosh,
A
again.
motorbike with 3 kids on it and zoom past Robert Dias.
I mean, would it not be cheaper to actually repaint the signs that are corroded?
Anything will do. I think we just need to do something.
Yeah, I think we've got all the. And the problem with it is, I mean, we've also noted that at the Piazza Hurricane Way, there are barriers, so you have to get off your bike and so forth. But there, they haven't actually got anywhere to park a bike. So there are problems all over the shop, really. And I think we just need to sort of pick them off one at a time. But the precinct, people get very exercised about it. I think particularly people of my sort of generation, when you're a kid, you think you get knocked over and you just get up, don't you? And now you just think, oh God,
If you're a kid, you get knocked up, you get up and you go.
Yes, whereas I just think, oh, this is a broken hip, A&E, and a slow decline.
Have a chat with the town centre manager. I know it's been something he's been dealing with for some time through the town centre.
Yeah, we did
partnership.
chat
I think
about
he's getting
it.
updated.
Yeah, a couple of meetings ago, that I've never been to there. It's just
With the new CCTV stuff, put up little screens, and if someone comes on an e-scooter, capture their photograph, and on every single number saying.
I think I'm bringing to bet that 80% of it is just thoughtlessness. People just don't think. But anyway.
And cycling is as bad. This is bad for adults as it is for children. Everybody on Facebook and that thinks it's kids all the time. It's not.
It's not.
It's
No, it's
more
not.
adults that do it. Kids.
Brainless. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other points, right? Transportation and highways, community speed watch. Anything further?
I've been cycling, walking. The only thing I have done is I have done a recce down Beechwood, because you remember Mike mentioned it at full council. So I found some possible sites that I've got to just do a bit more with the photographs around that. But at the moment, I just haven't had the bandwidth to do much else.
Highways issues, anything at all? Yes, Keith.
I had raised it with our esteemed colleagues to my left. With the work that's going on out there, there is no forward signs to say access to Oakwood Centre is from the opposite side. So if you're where the bus stop is
Yes.
and you're walking down,
Yeah.
and it just says footpath closed,
Mhm.
and you sort of, where do I go? Well, of course, you've got to cross the road to the flats, then cross the access to the car park, then come down and come in on the other side. Normally, WBC, things like that, they have a yellow sign that says, access to shops or whatever. Could we possibly, I think they're going to be there for some time. To get out, something like that, saying access to, or from the opposite side or something.
Yes, true. I think the works are due to be completed between the 12th and the 30th of May, so we've got another 10 days potentially.
Yeah,
on
but that was on
that
the
street.
basis that they started earlier
Yeah.
than they did.
They'd already given a kind of a wider timescale than they'd planned for the works to take place. Definitely send a message to them.
Oh, yeah, is there a way of getting, come into the industrial estate, come into the car park and get down the side? Is there any access there?
What, down the side of the Oakwood Centre?
Yeah, and that.
No, no.
Sort of it's a car park area, so there'd be a risk to get anyone to encourage to walk down there.
Okay, anyway.
Any other highways issues? Right, to note, Wokingham Borough Council's Community Governance Review, which ran from the 31st of January to the 25th of April, 143 people were responding. The full responses can be found on the following link, so.
Do we happen to know whether they accepted our argument if it's already been done?
The only note they said is we've accepted those responses and then they were going to
So,
come up with.
our
We don't know any.
Our comments are in the
They're in there,
the
yes.
responses. Yeah.
I was interested in the 2 residents of Early who want to give us other bits of the borough. So Thames Valley Park, I didn't realise that was, I suppose, bits of it over that side of the road. Yeah, that should go to Woodley because it's Early as residential area. I'm not Woodley, I suppose. I know, it's hilarious.
Whitegate is, which is the next ward right close to
They've
there,
got
isn't
no
it?
idea.
That's in Early.
Well, and the other bit was, yes, again, in with the north area north of Wokingham Road in North Early. That should go to Woodley or Remy. All right, fine. Keep an eye on that, so that doesn't happen.
Was there any, or many Woodley residents responded?
Yes.
Apart from that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, somebody was talking about warding and noting that Bullmarsh has got 4 town councillors and they're all different parties and what have you, and it affects, they thought it affected the ability to hold people to account, which I don't kind of get really, but it's interesting to see, especially as we've now created a 5 councillor ward. There was a question about should the number of parish councillors be changed, and 6 people in Woodley said yes. One said there should be 15, another unspecified, another said 24 was too many and 16 would do, and another person said as few as possible. So, but again, reading through a lot of the responses, I think people were getting confused between the town and parish councils and working ones. I mean, apparently we're just terrible value for money. All of this money we're getting paid, chance to be here today. So I think people are genuinely confused. So that was, but no, there was nothing.
There was nothing in the actual engage consultation that spelled that out. This is talking about town and parish, not. Because I must admit, I didn't.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it's kind of almost like assumed that Yeah, it's, well, yeah, I suppose as you read it as a layman, if you're not aware that you've got these different levels, then you're not kind of looking for it. Do you know what I mean? It's, and when we know this, don't we, when people, I mean, then I don't know about you guys, find this when you're talking to people. I think most of the queries that I get are to do with the borough. And actually, we can be helpful in that because we can tell people, well, you need to go here or you need to do this. But there's very little about what we do that people have questions about. So it's just, but I think that all vindicates the decision for us to do this consultation, because there were actually, that was one of the general feedback that people wanted to know more. So we'll, test them out and see if they do want to know more. And I think, but it's definitely a vindication for, the town clerk's proposal to do a bit of consulting before we set the precept. So. And that's going to be, I don't think we're obviously not going to get that right first time, but it'll be a kind of learning process. And if they can't stand a joke, people shouldn't ask, should they?
Most difficult bit will be a lot of people will respond to a consultation and expect their comments, their views, to actually be enshrined in the output, the final output. And life isn't like that.
I guess the challenge for us will be it depends what sort of volume you get, but if you can explain to people what drove, a decision, that helps. Because none of the things that we decide to do, and good grief, it's not as though we're doing education or anything here, but none of it is easy, is it? It's always, you're spending other people's money, and it's, you're making a corner judgment, which is what we get elected for. And again, that's something people probably need to kind of understand. I think it's I suppose I shouldn't say this really, but it's a bit unfortunate in a way, because we're a politicised body. If you're just an interested person in Woodley who hasn't got a political affiliation, the chances of you getting elected are pretty slim, because you haven't got the mechanism behind you to do that. And I don't know what we could do to resolve that.
And as you know, from the last election, someone can be elected as an independent during the election, and within a week joins a political party. So, it's happened with your party, it's happened with my party, and I dare say it's also happened.
We need it to work the other way round.
Yeah, that's the thing, it's the other way around. That's the issue, isn't it?
But don't you think the reality, currently, in the past, it hasn't been like this, but currently, you've got a political hat, I've got a political hat, you've got but when we come in here, I would like to believe our political hat stays out there and we act on an independent basis.
It's even beyond that, isn't it? Because the thing is, most of the members of my party, there is a matter of principle. So there are things that, a way of looking at the world that we have in common. There's something, and that's what this is. But in terms of how we behave here, it actually tells us in the Good Counsellor's Guide that we should not be thinking on party political lines. We should not be meeting beforehand to decide how we're going to vote. So we meet and talk about stuff, but it's entirely up to individuals how they vote.
Do you meet with Beth?
and obviously you're sharing information and so on. So, but it's a bit of a conundrum really for us in the sort of town. And again, I suppose it's less in parishes. A lot of parishes aren't political in that way. I don't know what the solution to it is, but I think it's a shame. There's probably people out there in the community who would actually contribute to.
We don't need to worry, because with the Reading grab based on a current government, Woodley will cease to exist.
You're not being party political there, are you?
I'm just replay what you said.
But, you know, but again, you know, in Reading, I mean, they don't have this level, and in fact, some people in the community government review said we should get rid of parish and town councils, and they're silly. So you know, it's everybody doesn't think the same way about
We're
it.
fortunate we've only got 2 tiers in Berkshire.
Yes, remember the old days with the with Berkshire. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think the town council and the parish councils are, you know, are valuable in that we can spend money, and it's not vast amounts of money, but we can spend money on doing stuff that people want to do locally. And in the grand scheme of things, if you had to make a choice between, I don't know, putting up our history thing or giving a kid a couple of extra hours of attention at school, well, you haven't got a choice there, have you? You've got to do that. Whereas I think the money that we spend, well, personally, you know, people do appreciate what's done. I mean, and I get that a lot talking to people, just unsolicited, without their arms up behind their back, you know, will say things that the town council has done that they appreciate. But also, you know, we talk about all these things like community safety and so forth. And I think Woodley is a very, I mean, friendly place. And all the sort of things the town council does helps bring people physically together and you know, build all that sort of community feeling. And it's difficult to monetize, I'm sure.
Without the town council, if we didn't have the town council, the facilities that we have in the town, the Oakwood Centre, Chapel Hall, Coronation Hall, all the likes, run by the borough, what would be the, sorry?
Whatever borough it is.
Yes.
Or it wouldn't be run.
No.
Because it wouldn't be seen as a priority, and probably correctly wouldn't be seen as a priority in that big.
They'd probably sell this one. Yeah, because this is about a £5 to £6 million asset.
Well, I don't think we can speculate, and also they've got different challenges. I mean, I think it's a really hard job personally to be a borough councillor, and you know, hats off to all of you who do it, because you know. But having said that, I think town council, my experience in this 2 years, I just think it's brilliant.
We are.
No, brilliant. How have we got onto this?
Right.
It's useful.
Applications and information. The promise inclusion letter of April 2025, Berkshire Association of Local Councils, again published in May 2025.
Just a quick one on that.
Yep.
The courses for us are free until May next year, and then after that, they're going to introduce charging for it. So have a look and see if there's anything good you fancy doing while it's still free.
Okay, thank you very much. Future agenda items. Any suggestions for anything that needed to be added to future agendas? And publicity and website. Consider suggestions for items to be published. Precised, I should say. Anything at all?
Can we thank Anuska for the press releases that have gone out there? They've been very positive and